Donquixote Doflamingo, the Heavenly Demon, one of the most terrifying pirates in One Piece, the man who became the king of the underworld, supplying the entire world with weapons and ammunition, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, and the man who took over an entire country by manipulating its citizens. But why did Doflamingo become so evil, and what does he want to achieve? I'm going to go over the tale of Donquixote Doflamingo from the very beginning, so if you do end up enjoying this video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe. So get comfy, grab some snacks, and let's get into it. Doflamingo was born into one of the 20 royal families known as the Celestial Dragons. However, when Doflamingo was 8 years old, his father chose to give up being a Celestial Dragon and moved his whole family down from Marineford into an unknown country to live a normal life. But Doflamingo was still accustomed to the life of a world noble, as he still expected commoners to bow to him, despite his father renouncing their titles as Celestial Dragons. But Doflamingo's father had made a huge mistake. Just because he renounced his title as a Celestial Dragon does not mean that civilians would welcome him and his family with open arms. After all, the Celestial Dragons had committed atrocious acts, not only to civilians but to all of humanity. The citizens ended up attacking the Donquixote family by burning down their house and tying them up against the wall. Doflamingo's father tried desperately to save his children by saying that they were innocent and they had nothing to do with the horrific acts of the Celestial Dragons. But Doflamingo was different. He wasn't sorry. He truly believes that he was a god to all of these people, as he screamed, saying that he would hunt down and kill every single one of them for what they have done. Doflamingo's will was so strong that at just 8 years old, he unleashed a blast of Conqueror's Haki, knocking out all the people who had tied him up. The family was then forced to live in a shack, eating out of the garbage as they were left with nothing. Doflamingo's father tried to get help from the world nobles, but due to him renouncing his title as a Celestial Dragon, they rejected him and offered no help. Eventually, the angry citizens tracked them down and attacked them once again. The Donquixote family was left severely beaten, but ultimately they survived. Sometime later, Doflamingo's mother died from an illness due to the horrible conditions that they were forced to live in. Doflamingo then met a person called Treble, and due to Doffy using Conqueror's Haki, Treble believed that Doflamingo had been chosen by the heavens and gave him a devil fruit called the String Fruit along with a pistol, giving Doflamingo the power to take revenge on all the people he hated. At 10 years old, Doflamingo shot his father in the head because of what he had done to the family with the pistol that had been gifted to him by Treble. Treble and his companions made Doflamingo their new leader, and their goal would be to make Doffy the next king of the pirates, and promised that they would never let anything get in the way of that goal. Doflamingo had found a new family. At age 25, Doflamingo came into contact with a 10-year-old boy who had lost everything just like Doflamingo did. His name was Trafalgar Law. Doflamingo saw his younger self in Law. Doffy's brother Corazon didn't like Law and often threw him out the window. Due to this, Law grew to hate Corazon, but Doflamingo told Law that he was never to lay a hand on his brother. But in reality, Corazon was trying to save Law from the evil that was Doflamingo, as Law was nothing less than a mere child who was going down the wrong path. After some time, the Donquixote family learned that Law was sick with the Amber Lead syndrome. Everyone started panicking as they thought that the disease was contagious, but Doflamingo had learned about the tragedy of Flavins, where the Amber Lead syndrome originated from, and reassured everyone that it was not contagious. And then he decided to make Law an official member of the new Donquixote family, but due to Law's sickness, he only had about 3 years left to live. Doffy told Law that they often came into contact with devil fruits, and one of them could potentially save his life and cure his disease. During the next 2 years, Doflamingo and his crew made their way to the Grand Line, where they looted, made business deals, and collected bounties. They had become quite the force to be reckoned with. Doflamingo even taught Law and his new crewmates forms of combat to strengthen the crew. But when just everything was going to plan, Corazon kidnapped Law and left a note saying that they had gone to find a cure for Law's illness. 6 months later, after their departure, Doflamingo rang Law on a transponder snail asking how they were getting on, and asked them to return to the crew, as Doflamingo had found information on a powerful devil fruit called the Op fruit and wanted Corazon to eat it and heal Law, completely unaware that Corazon had already eaten the Cam fruit, which allowed him to make his environment completely silent. He also explained his plan to steal the fruit from an island called Rubeck Island, where the world government was planning to buy the fruit from another pirate. But Doflamingo later had a meeting with the rest of the crew, expressing their suspicions that Corazon was maybe a marine spy, seeing that no other marines knew about his whereabouts. But Doffy would refuse to believe that his brother was a traitor. He and his crew then later arrived on the island where the deal was meant to occur, only only to find out that the fruit was already stolen, and Virgo, Doflamingo's spy, informed him that Corazon was indeed a marine spy. Furiously, Doflamingo created an entire birdcage around the island using his string fruit, making it so Law and Corazon could not escape. He then confronted his brother after he had been beaten by his crew. Doflamingo demanded that Corazon tell him exactly where the op fruit is, but Corazon told him that Law had already eaten it and fled the island, also revealing his marine rank to Doflamingo. Corazon told Doflamingo that Law would no longer obey him and that he was free of Doflamingo's evil manipulation. And with no hesitation, Doflamingo shot his brother 5 times in a row. Doflamingo had killed his own flesh and blood for the 2nd time. The heavenly demon had now been born. The Donquixote Pirates chased after Law, but they never found him. Law had escaped, and now with the power of the op fruit, he was cured of his disease and was finally free. But Doflamingo would not let this stop him, as he would continue to cause chaos among the world by blackmailing the world government with the secrets he had known from being a celestial dragon into becoming one of the 7 warlords of the sea. But even a title that would let him do as he pleases would not suffice, as he later made his way to the kingdom of Dressrosa, where he told the king that if he did not pay Doflamingo 10 billion berries, he would rage a war upon the entirety of Dressrosa. And the king agreed, but as soon as the money was collected, Doflamingo went back on his word, manipulating the king with his string fruit into attacking his own people, causing complete chaos in the nation of Dressrosa. Doflamingo then took control of the soldiers, making them attack Dressrosa as well. And all whilst this was going on, Doflamingo watched gleefully from the shadows while he caused an entire nation into ruin. He then later appeared in front of the civilians, defeating the rampaging king and his soldiers that he had created, making it seem like he was there to help the nation of Dressrosa, but actually his plan was far more sinister than that. Using his title of a warlord of the sea, Doflamingo ascended to the throne and was now king of Dressrosa. He had manipulated the king into giving him 10 billion to start a war. He then kept the 10 billion and took over the entire nation anyway, using the previous king to murder hundreds in the process, even kidnapping the king's daughter, Princess Viola. Doflamingo had become truly evil, and there was nothing that the heavenly demon would not do to accomplish his goals. He then had his subordinates track down and kill everyone with a past affiliation with the previous king Riku. Doffy then used his subordinates' devil fruit to turn everyone who opposed him into toys, to work as mindless slaves, erasing their past and making the people close to them forget that they even existed. Doflamingo then gained a powerful influence in the underworld under the alias Joker. Doflamingo formed a 3-way alliance with the rogue scientist Caesar Clown and one of the most powerful pirates in the world, Kaido, king of the beasts and one of the 4 emperors of the sea. They were creating Smiles, a new artificial devil fruit made by Caesar Clown. The Smile fruits would allow Kaido to create an entire army of Zoan type devil fruit users. However, Caesar needed a chemical called SAD to make the devil fruits, which he had to make himself in an island called Punk Hazard. Doflamingo provided cover for Caesar's research in Punk Hazard with the assistance of Virgo and Monet, who he had assigned as deep cover agents to monitor Caesar Clown. However, Doflamingo wasn't the only lunatic making moves in the world of pirates, as one of the 7 warlords of the sea, Crocodile, had been defeated by a rookie pirate called Monkey D. Luffy, and Doffy was shocked, not because Crocodile had fallen, but because the person who he fell at had a D in his name. Being a former celestial dragon, Doflamingo knew all too well what that D in his name really meant, and asked Treble to gather information about the mysterious new rookie. Some more time had passed and the 7 warlords of the sea were asked to participate in the upcoming war with Whitebeard, as one of Whitebeard's commanders, Fire Fist Ace, had been captured and was going to have a public execution in Marineford, and Whitebeard was not just going to let one of his commanders die so easily. Doflamingo answered the call. He, along with the rest of the warlords, all agreed and travelled to Marineford to fight against the Whitebeard pirates. Unlike most, Doflamingo was excited at the prospect of war against the legendary Whitebeard pirates. Doflamingo was itching for the chaos to unfold. It was a massacre on both sides, as the Whitebeard pirates and the navy fought tooth and nail trying to kill each other. It was a war that would go down in history as the war of the best. Doflamingo wasted no time and fought the biggest man he could, Oars the Giant, even cutting off his leg. But he didn't stop there, as he fought multiple of Whitebeard's commanders until something happened, something that would shock even the likes of Doflamingo and leave the entire world stunned, as a ship fell from the sky carrying the likes of Boogie the Clown, Crocodile, Emporio of Ankov, and the main man himself, Monkey D. Luffy. Doflamingo was amused that Luffy, the famous rookie, had appeared, and with Crocodile of all people, and tons of escaped prisoners from Impel Down, which was supposed to be an impenetrable fortress. Doflamingo then came face to face with Crocodile. Doflamingo asked Crocodile if he wanted to team up, but Crocodile rejected his offer. Doflamingo was not happy, and this led to a clash between the heavenly demon and the man they call Crocodile. But the war was suddenly brought to a halt as a certain someone had made an appearance. The man who caused this entire war, and someone who may just be more sinister than Doflamingo himself, Blackbeard, had arrived and was out for blood. Doflamingo laughed at his appearance, saying that this was the best and now things were really getting awesome. Blackbeard went straight for Whitebeard, resulting in a clash between the strongest man alive and a man who had been chosen by fate. But the strongest man alive was defeated by Blackbeard and his crewmates. However, even with the war over, Doflamingo had still one more task he needed to complete. He was ordered by the government to kill a certain someone, Gecko Moria. Doflamingo tried to carry out his execution along with multiple pacifista units, but due to Moria's freaky devil fruit, he managed to escape the grasp of Doflamingo. But Doflamingo had left him severely battered and beaten, and told the government that he would most likely die from his injuries. After the war, some more time passed, and during the 2-year time skip, Doflamingo managed to scale his underground business and had become a king in the underworld, supplying Kaido with smile fruits and supplying the entire world and its armies with weapons. Almost every man, woman and child was getting their weapons from Doflamingo, but there was just one problem. The island known as Punk Hazard, where the SAD was being produced, was infiltrated by Trafalgar Law and the Straw Hats. Doffy immediately ordered Virgo to kill Law, but to be cautious of Luffy and the Straw Hat, as Luffy possesses Conqueror's Haki. Law had managed to defeat Virgo and then told Doflamingo that he would destroy the SAD production and leave Doflamingo without a way to make his precious smile fruits. These words by Law enraged Doflamingo, as he sent Buffalo and Baby 5 to Punk Hazard as backup to tie up any loose ends and recover Caesar Clown. Once Baby 5 and Buffalo arrived on Punk Hazard, they rung Doffy, saying that they had located Caesar and that he was just sitting there next to a tanker. This made Doflamingo happy, as with Caesar back in his possession again, he continued to produce smile fruits. Doflamingo then later got a call from Monet, who he had sent to look over the SAD production. Monet informed Doflamingo that Caesar had been defeated by Luffy. Doflamingo then ordered Monet to press a button that would blow up Punk Hazard, leaving no survivors. But as she was just about to press it, Caesar unknowingly stabbed her heart, thinking that it belonged to Trafalgar Law, but Law had switched the heart with his op-op fruit. Doflamingo was still on the line, wondering why the connection didn't cut off, as he thought Monet had pressed the button, completely unaware that Caesar had accidentally killed her. The situation had spiraled out of control, and Doflamingo decided to come to Punk Hazard himself and make sure that he could retrieve Caesar, as without him he couldn't supply Kaido with any more devil fruits. Even Doflamingo was scared of someone, Kaido, the strongest creature in the world. On his way there, Doffy encountered a raft in the middle of the ocean with the heads of both Baby 5 and Buffalo, the two he had sent as backup. Once he stepped foot on the raft, a transponder snail started to ring, and on the other end was Trafalgar Law. Law began to speak to Doflamingo. Doflamingo laughed at Law's confidence, warning him not to anger him. Law responded that the only one who is going to be angered is Kaido. Law told Doflamingo that once Kaido finds out he can no longer produce SAD, he will not be able to bargain with him, and Doflamingo will be killed. Doffy asked Law what he wanted in exchange for getting Caesar Clown back. Law demanded that he renounce his position of warlord that he had held for a decade and return to being a common pirate. Law told Doflamingo that if the newspaper did not say he had resigned, their negotiations would be over. After this, Doflamingo was left simmering in rage over what to do next. He was furious that Law had managed to get the better of him. He then decided to go straight after Law and Luffy, hoping that they were still on Punk Hazard. Once Doflamingo arrived on Punk Hazard, he found the bodies of both Baby 5 and Buffalo and promptly reattached their heads. But once he arrived, he found that the Straw Hats and Law were no longer there and were nowhere to be found. The only people still there was a marine branch led by Captain Smoker, the G5 branch. Doffy immediately used his Conqueror's Haki, which knocked out a majority of the G5 Marines. Doflamingo then furiously demanded them to tell him where the Straw Hat Pirates and Law had gone. Smoker confronted Doflamingo and lied about not knowing where they had gone, as he knew Doflamingo was up to something sinister. Doflamingo said that Smoker knew way too much, and his only option was to kill Smoker. Doflamingo promised that he would kill everyone and then catch up to Law and the Straw Hats. But before he could deliver a finishing blow on Smoker, someone arrived. Someone which the likes of even Doflamingo could not contend with, as the former Admiral Kuzan appeared and demanded that Doflamingo step aside. Doffy ignored Kuzan and tried to finish off Smoker quickly, but he wasn't even able to move an inch before Kuzan froze him solid, completely immobilizing the heavenly demon in less than a second. Doflamingo broke out of his ice, then telling Kuzan that he had no intention of fighting him. Doflamingo then promptly left with Baby 5 and Buffalo. The next morning, the newspaper reported that he had given in to Law's demands and resigned from the Warlords, as well as giving up his position as the king of Dressrosa. Doflamingo sat in his room, letting a record play, drowning out all of the noise from the citizens wondering why their king had given up his title. All Doffy could do was wait patiently for Law to call him back, and he did. Doflamingo answered the phone and told Law that he had agreed to his commands and resigned from the 7 Warlords. Luffy then interrupted the phone call and asked if he was the one in charge of Caesar. Doffy asked Luffy where he had been for the past 2 years, but Luffy refused to give him any more information. Doflamingo also told Luffy that he was in possession of something Luffy would want before Law took back the transponder snail. Law told Doffy that he would return Caesar back to Doffy at Greenbits, an island north of Dressrosa, but Doflamingo had a plan. He was in possession of Ace's Flame fruit and was going to use it as bait to catch Luffy, as he made it the winning prize for a fighting tournament in the Colosseum. Doflamingo then left for Law on Greenbits, with Law completely unaware of what Doflamingo had cooking. Law came face to face with Doflamingo and a certain someone, an Admiral of the Navy, Admiral Fujitora. Law was shocked, as this meant that Doflamingo had not actually renounced his title as Warlord. If he was still in an alliance with a Navy Admiral, Law then refused to give Caesar back. Due to this, Law had no choice but to clash with the Heavenly Demon himself. It was a 3-way battle between a Navy Admiral, the Surgeon of Death, and the Heavenly Demon. Law then confirmed that he was indeed in an alliance with Luffy and the Straw Hats, and due to this, Admiral Fujitora took away Law's title of Warlord and sent a meteor crashing down from the sky, but it was destroyed by both Law and Doflamingo. But Law still had a trick up his sleeve, as he was not only in possession of Caesar, but also his heart. Doflamingo ordered Law to give back Caesar's heart, but Law refused, and the two kept on fighting. Doflamingo told Law that his alliance with Luffy was irrelevant, as Luffy had fallen for the trap he had set in the Colosseum, saying that they had no chance and their alliance was finished. The Surgeon of Death was then defeated at the hands of the Heavenly Demon, and Doflamingo took back what seemed to be Caesar's heart. Doflamingo then told Law that he was a member of one of the 20 royal families and a celestial dragon. This news took Law by surprise, but it also made sense how he was able to fabricate renouncing his title as a Warlord of the Sea. Caesar then came running towards Doflamingo, begging to have his heart restored into his body, but Law then confessed that it was not Caesar's heart, and actually it belonged to a random marine. Law quickly used a room to escape, grabbing Caesar in the process and making a run for it. Doflamingo and Fujitora quickly followed. Law then ran towards the bridge. This confused Doflamingo, as the bridge led directly to the kingdom of Dressrosa, his own territory, but out of the corner of his eye he spotted the 1000 Sunny and went straight for it, but he was quickly intercepted by Sanji and then Law as well. Law handed Caesar over to the remaining Straw Hats on the 1000 Sunny and told them to head straight for the island of Zou. They immediately escaped with a coup de burst, leaving Law behind. Law and Doflamingo then faced off again on the iron bridge that led to Dressrosa. The battle was so intense that they destroyed everything in their path, but unfortunately the Surgeon of Death had once again fell at the hands of the Heavenly Demon. Doflamingo was furious at what Law had done and shot him 3 times directly outside the Colosseum. Witnessing this were Zoro and Kinemon, and they tried to intervene, but Zoro was quickly stopped by Admiral Fujitora, and Doflamingo kicked Kinemon aside as he tried to grab Law. Doflamingo then took Law back to his palace and offered the rest of the Straw Hats to Admiral Fujitora, as they were pirates after all. But back at the castle, Admiral Fujitora told Doflamingo that he was not to mistake him as his ally. Even though Doflamingo was a warlord at heart, he was still a pirate. He even stated that his goal here in Dressrosa was to minimize the amount of damage done, and that his ultimate goal was to abolish the 7 warlord system. After hearing this, Doflamingo tried to kick Fujitora, but the kick was easily blocked. Doflamingo assumed that the admiral would attack, but Fujitora said that they would be on friendly terms for the time being. After this, Doflamingo had time to rest. He was happy that everything seemed to be going to plan in Dressrosa, but was completely unaware of what was happening behind the scenes, as he soon heard that Luffy had somehow breached the palace, and Doflamingo was shocked as he thought that Luffy was still fighting in the Colosseum. And seeing someone fight in the Colosseum who was dressed exactly like Luffy was, even going under a similar alias, Lucy, Doflamingo was furious as he wondered who the hell was fighting dressed as Luffy, and in fact it was Sabo, who is second in command of the entire revolutionary army. Doflamingo then found out that the Straw Hats were in alliance with the Tontada tribe, and they were going after Sugar, one of Doflamingo's subordinates, and the person who controls all of the humans-made toys in Dressrosa. The Tontada tribe were a group of dwarfs native to Dressrosa, who also wanted to take down Doflamingo, as he used them as slaves for his smile factory. Doflamingo immediately ordered Treble to take Sugar to the palace to ensure her safety, as if Sugar was to be knocked out, all the toys would revert back to their human form, and the dark history of Dressrosa would come to light for the entire world to see. Treble reassured Doflamingo that all the intruders were subdued and that Sugar was indeed safe, and in an act of pure bravery, Usopp managed to knock out Sugar with nothing less than his mere reaction to a spiced blueberry. Sugar then lost her consciousness and all the toys reverted back to humans, causing absolute chaos and widespread panic among the streets of Dressrosa. Doflamingo watched as his nation started to crumble. He was completely and utterly furious, and not even giving Doflamingo a second to process the situation, a one-legged gladiator came out of nowhere trying to take his head off. In the span of 5 minutes, Doflamingo had gone from thinking everything was under control to all the dark secrets of Dressrosa coming to light in a second as his country started to fall apart. Doflamingo had used a string clone on himself and was still alive despite the gladiator cutting off his head. Doflamingo then tried to attack the gladiator, but was stopped in his tracks by Luffy. Doflamingo and Luffy ended up clashing for the first time. However, Doflamingo managed to quickly dispose of Luffy and the gladiator at the same time, but not before Luffy managed to free Law. But Doflamingo had now lost everything. The dark secrets of Dressrosa had come to light, and he had lost possession of Caesar, who was nowhere to be found, and now he could no longer produce smile fruits for Kaido. So Doflamingo used the one thing he had left and created a bird cage using his devil fruit around the entire island, a bird cage so powerful that not even Haki could penetrate it, whilst also moving his palace up into the mountains of Dressrosa using his subordinates Pika's devil fruit, the stone fruit. No one was safe, not the Straw Hats or the Navy, as Doflamingo planned to exterminate everyone in Dressrosa. He even used his devil fruit to take over anyone he could, forcing them to kill anyone they see inside the bird cage, creating more panic and widespread havoc. Doflamingo then made a public announcement saying that either one of two things could happen. Either someone manages to make their way to Doflamingo and kill him, or they manage to kill a list of people Doflamingo had named off. Doflamingo then explained his hit list and told everyone in Dressrosa that each head was worth a certain number of stars, with each star being worth 100 million berries. However, Doflamingo had made a huge mistake, as everyone started to team up to take down the Heavenly Demon. This included Luffy and the remaining Straw Hats, Trafalgar Law, and every single fighter from the Colosseum, all teamed up to take down Doflamingo and release the bird cage. They had formed an entire army. It was them versus Doflamingo and the Donquixote family. The allied pirate, gladiator, Tontada and revolutionary army charged towards Doflamingo's palace, battling against the Doflamingo pirates. And eventually Law and Luffy managed to make it up to the palace, but Doflamingo took over a pirate called Bellamy's body after he managed to befriend Luffy in the Colosseum, and sent him directly after Luffy, while Law battled with Doflamingo and Treble on top of the palace. Luffy tried desperately to free Bellamy from the grasp of Doflamingo, but he couldn't. Luffy then proceeded to one-shot Bellamy, as he didn't have the time to stay around with Bellamy, and made his way to join the fight between Law and Doflamingo. The fight between Law and Luffy versus Doflamingo and Treble was intense, as each side exchanged lethal blows towards one another, until Doflamingo managed to defeat Law and was finally about to kill him, until Luffy intervened, saving Law from the boot of Doflamingo. Luffy and Doflamingo ended up clashing, but this wasn't just any clash, as it was a conqueror's clash, as Luffy and Doflamingo both unleashed their conqueror's haki, destroying their surroundings and shocking everyone below. The conqueror's clash continued as Luffy and Doflamingo attacked each other continuously, while Law went on to attack Treble. However, Treble was no match for the one they called the Surgeon of Death, as Law managed to kill and defeat Treble, and now all that was left was Doflamingo. But Law was at his limit and could no longer keep fighting, changing. It was entirely up to Luffy now. Luffy and Doflamingo continued to fight, with the fate of Dressrosa relying on the outcome of their battle, but Doflamingo kept evading all of Luffy's moves and managing to land lethal blows against a man made of rubber. It was time for Luffy to use his trump card, something that Luffy had been holding back, and something not even the Heavenly Demon could contend with. Gear 4th, Bounceman. Luffy had unlocked a new form, a form that utilizes his newfound power of haki, whilst also keeping the elasticity features of rubber. Doflamingo laughed at his new form, that it was nothing but a mere balloon, but Luffy wasted few words before sending Doflamingo flying into the ground at Mach speed. Doflamingo was shocked and stunned at the power of Luffy's new form as he watched Luffy flying down towards him. And so it had begun, the fight that would decide the fate of Dressrosa, along with the fate of both a world noble and a man marked the name of D, as both Luffy and Doflamingo engaged in the fight of their lives. The fight was so intense that Doflamingo awakened his devil fruit and started turning his entire surroundings into string. But this wouldn't stop Luffy, as he punched Doflamingo with enough power to send Doflamingo flying to the other end of the city. Doflamingo was on the verge of defeat and was unable to move, but right before Luffy could properly finish him off, his haki ran out and he was rendered incapable of fighting. Eventually Doflamingo used his string fruit to temporarily fix his broken bones and damaged organs before returning to the battle, but Luffy was not able to fight and needed 10 more minutes for his haki to replenish so he could finally finish off Doflamingo. And in a miraculous act of fate, all the civilians and pirates alike teamed up to protect Luffy from the evil grasp of Doflamingo for 10 minutes until Luffy's haki had replenished. Doflamingo then found Luffy and used his string fruit to take over his body. Doffy was about to finish Luffy off again, but in that very moment, Luffy unlocked Gear 4th again, and the fight continued as they both fought tooth and nail. However, even with 10 minutes of rest, Luffy wasn't able to drag out the fight very long and needed to finish it quickly, and so he used his final move, Gear 4th, King Kong Gun. Doflamingo retaliated with a spider web and his 16 holy bullets. The clash was so intense that it sent out a massive shockwave, knocking everyone beneath them back. But in the end, Luffy managed to break through Doflamingo's defenses and launched him into the ground with so much power that it decimated the ground below and almost destroyed the entire city. The Heavenly Demon had been defeated by his sworn enemy, Monkey D. Luffy, and the kingdom of Dressrosa had been liberated, and Doflamingo was no more. After Doflamingo's defeat, his arrest was ordered due to the horrific crimes he committed in Dressrosa, and was sent off to the world's greatest prison, Impel Down, where Doflamingo would spend the rest of his days. And yeah, that's about it for this video on Doflamingo. This was my biggest project so far, so if you did end up enjoying the video, consider dropping a like and subscribing. Also tell me down in the comments if I missed anything, and I'll see you in the next one.